greatness inside of you. Let's do greatness with love. Unleash it in the greatness of His love. Transformation that you can have, coming from God above. Welcome to the greatness hub. Welcome to the greatness hub.
Our Heavenly Father, the fount of all goodness and grace, the cause of wisdom, the source of intelligence, we welcome you, O Lord, to this auspicious gathering of your beloved, who continuously give you thanks for every opportunity to learn something new and become fruitful to the works of your creation. We humbly come to you, not because we are worthy, but because we find ourselves in need of you, who is our strength and our hope, to continue despite the challenges we face in health, prosperity, and our solidarity with one another. We pray that today's gathering, made possible by the grace of advancements in technology and social media, becomes successful in its endeavors, so we can offer it back to you as our humble offering to honor you, glorify you, and love you through our deeper connection with everyone. May we find bliss in today's session and become more productive children and co-creators of the earth. This we ask and pray through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Good afternoon. Once again, it's Wednesday, the 4th Wednesday of the month. And here we are. Let's speak English. Our subject for this afternoon is Let's Converse. And our topic, the benefits and knowing how to speak English in traveling. This is Let's Speak English, the basic English lesson online. This afternoon, I have a special guest, one of our hosts in Greatness Hub. He's hosting Travel Pamor and very much well experienced in so many fields. So, for more than 30 years of comprehensive and considerable experiences in education, training, research, and development, earned both from general education and corporate industry in all levels, including adult learning, knowledge and skills in the development of curriculum design, training manual and instructional materials development for both national and international organizations, comprehensive exposure in the development and implementation of internal and external quality audits for quality management system in compliance for ISO 9001 in 2015, serving as education advisor consultant in Asia and Africa for school leadership, trainers training as assessors course, and competency based curriculum development. A coach of iHelp coaching and business solutions, currently a host of Travel Pamor under the Greatness Hub online channel. With the roles of his achievements, what I mentioned were just but a few. So, having mentioned a few of his achievements, let us welcome Coach Bayani U. Almacen. Coach, good
Yes.
afternoon. Coach
Hello.
Yan,
Good afternoon,
good
Coach.
afternoon. Thank you
Uh,
for accepting my invitation to
yeah,
guest in my show. Let's
yeah.
speak
Honor is
English.
honor is mine. It's my honor.
Yes. Is there anything, Coach, that you might want yet to say a little more of yourself?
Um, I think so much has been said, and
Oh, stop.
uh, that
Okay.
maybe it will follow. What I have to-
Okay. So let us see. Since we have very limited time, Coach Yan, um, maybe we can go straight to our discussion. I know that you have traveled so much,
Yeah.
different places, no? Can you share with us your experiences in traveling? Oh,
Um, in 1998, I was chosen to be one of the trainers for maritime instructors in the whole Philippines. And we were 19 selected, so I started traveling since doing teacher training, assessor's course, competence-based curriculum under the Department of Education, Commission on Higher Education, and Technical Education and Skills Development, or TESDA. So it started my passion for traveling, which I believe before that I cannot do myself. But it was a self-discovery and uh, gave me the experience and exposure for travels. And in 2007, I was chosen to be one of the speakers in an international convention for education in Hawaii. So that's my first overseas experience, and I traveled alone. My school director, who is supposed to be my co-presenter in my paper,
mhm,
traveled to the mainland of the US and traveled alone. And that was again a self-discovery that are the
mhm,
things that I can do myself all alone. And
mhm,
this means that it gave me a lot of opportunities and exposure that things can be done all by myself. So
mhm.
since then, in 2008, I was accepted in a job overseas. I was sent in Nepal. I have to pass by Thailand. Um, and then I stayed in Nepal for about 2 years,
Yeah.
actually 23 months, I think. And then I was accepted again by a teaching job in Malaysia. And from there, I think in 2 years of stay in Nepal, I traveled 12 countries in 2 years. So that
Mm,
gave me again a lot of experience that relates to travel. Uh, we call it survival English in order to communicate and survive in another country whose
yeah.
language is not English. So I have uh, to exert some efforts, to get communicated and be understood by people for things I need, things that they need from me, or
Yes.
just to be together. So
Yeah.
since then, I kept on traveling, and I think I have traveled 31 countries. And because of that pandemic, my travel had stopped, and I'm supposed to travel to the US in 2019, I think November. So I have to cancel all my schedules, and of course some of the opportunities have been lost. And it's amazing that there are still a lot of opportunities we can do
Yeah.
despite of the pandemic, and this is what we are doing now
Yes.
for our greatness and the rest of the people.
That's right. Exactly. Exactly, Coach. That's very true. No, and I'm just wondering, of all titles of your show, why did you choose to hold a show on traveling? Is it because of your experiences?
It was only accident because actually my first choice is uh, the title is supposed to be "Rich to Teach" because I am more into performing art. So I I I prefer to do travel and do training, do some speaking engagement, serve as resource persons, panel discussants, or something like that. But I was told by the management of iHealth that there were all, I think, enough already hosts for the education and training. So he suggested me, uh, why not get into travel because you have made a lot of travels. I see it in your profile.
Yeah.
So that was a very good idea, and I feel more comfortable now. I think I'm doing great as far as
Yeah.
I
Indeed.
am, and I think I'm being led to the right direction.
Yes. 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 Indeed, Coach Yanni. Um, I was reading your credentials, and a few of them had shown that you taught in different places, the
Yeah.
different places that you went in. In fact, if I remember well, there is this picture of yours that you sent me. You taught somewhere in Vietnam, am I right? Or Indonesia or something?
I taught English as a second language and cultural orientation
Oh,
in
okay.
the Philippine Refugee Processing Center. It's an American company which is responsible for the resettlement of Vietnamese, Laotian, and Cambodian refugees found for resettlement in the
Uh-huh.
U.S. as refugees. And my
Yes.
exposure to the Vietnamese working for an American company gave me a lot of insights, opportunities, and strategies on how to teach English as a second language. That's probably gave me the strength and the advantage of uh, going places like working in Nepal for 2 years, doing teacher training in India. Actually, India is not a big problem because many of them are speaking the English language.
Right.
They were so British in their accent.
Exactly. Right.
I
Right.
am
Because
more or less
right.
influenced by how they speak. And
Yeah.
another is I taught in Malaysia for 1 year in University of Malaya. And of course, my students are from Cambodia, from China, from Indonesia, and of course Malay, whose English is a second language also to them. So because of that, I think one of the concern for speaking the English language is training your ear, because even if we say it in the correct English, it is sometimes pronounced differently. Like Myanmar is Myanmar because they don't have
Mm-hmm.
R. So this means that it uh, the writing is not a problem because, like for example, in Thailand, they're not very particular about the spelling, but they are very particular on how you say word, and we call
Mm-hmm.
it verbal or communicative English. Because
Mm, right.
what's important in a language, particularly in another place, is that you pay attention to the keywords. No, we call it context. So some of the communication that we do is dependent on how you use it in the sentence. So
Yes.
sometimes to understand or communicate with somebody through context, you don't have to necessarily have to go through the correct English or grammar, but the keywords play important role in traveling. The
Yes.
advantage of us like Filipinos, we are um, exposed to English with a standard structure. So whenever we go to Japan, Taiwan, or any other country, we can adjust to them because we are already familiar with the keywords and the use of these words in context. We understand them.
Yeah, that's right, Coach Yanni. In fact, if you recall, and if you were able to watch my very first episode of this show, I presented the historical background of the language English here in the Philippines, no? Where I mentioned, in fact, I mentioned there that there was no unifying language here in the Philippines then, and since we were under the Spaniards for 300 years, and when the Americans came in, they thought that our unifying language would be Spanish, just like Mexico. Unfortunately, there was nothing, because, especially because we are all uh, having our own regional dialects and languages, no?
Correct.
And it was only later when English was thought to serve as a unifying language among us,
Yes.
because we did not even have national language. And you can just imagine, if in a nation like ours, no, with the regional languages and dialects, we cannot come together to understand each other. How much more if we go out of our own place, if we go out of our country, go to another country without knowing one language that can unify different peoples, no,
That's
different
correct.
peoples, different nations. I wonder, in your first, because you mentioned earlier that you somehow kind of encountered some difficulties. What difficulties and challenges did you encounter in your first time of traveling, along the line of communication? Of course, you
Um,
went there with already knowledge of English,
that's
but
right.
surely you have gone to places where English wasn't yet a communication language, no?
Yeah, maybe I am going to present that through examples. The first
Yeah.
travel that I did is through Honolulu, Hawaii.
Mhm.
That's my first international travel. I was out of the airport, and of course, I was thinking of what to do, where to go. Although there is already, I have no hotel reservation except for the reservation for my talk the following day. I was staying outside of the airport, and somebody approached me, and he said, "Where you go?" And it sounds like familiar to me, like the way where you go. And I said, "Are you Vietnamese?" And he said, "Yeah," but he was not very fluent in English. So I spoke in Vietnamese, and we understood each other, and he ferried me to the hotel. So that's survival. In other words, I don't have to speak um, straight English just because I would like to be understood, because that's not the way it is. It happened to me also when I went to Hanoi, and I was not picked up by the person who invited me because he has other commitments. I have to talk to another taxi driver, and he does not speak English well also. So what I did is I borrowed his phone, dialed the number, called my host, and then the host is an English speaker too because he's a Filipino, and he passed the telephone to the student because he was teaching them, and they talk in Vietnamese, and they told me, okay, let's go. So that's survival.
Yeah.
Another is I lost my way. I was in Hong Kong, and I missed the train station. I have to go to get off, and then I every place is one way back. I have to go my way opposite direction, and every time I meet a person, I have to ask, "Excuse me, I'm lost. I don't know where to go," and etc. And they will always stay away from me, as in they are very afraid. So I asked my friend upon arrival to my host that it is not that because they are afraid of you, it's because they cannot speak English and they do not want to talk to you. So that's it.
Yeah.
So one thing that we have to remember is that it is not them learning your language for you to be understood.
Right.
It's
Right.
you who should learn the language. So therefore,
Yes.
if you travel and you plan to travel in a particular place, at least conversational English or the common greetings uh, like if you go to Thailand, say "Kampute," that means hello and how are you or something like that. That gives the the person to feel at home with you because if you are a stranger, there is always you have to take risk of is this is not a dangerous person or I am safe with this person or something like that.
That's
So
true.
another is that when you are say for example you have to buy something and for example I was stranded in India. I think it's in New Delhi, and
Mhm.
I missed my flight because my flight was delayed also from another state of India. So the next airport, I'm going to Kathmandu City from New Delhi. So I missed the flight. So I will miss also my pickup in the next airport. So I have to find my way. I cannot make a telephone call. I have no local SIM card. It's a requirement in India. If you have to make a call, you have to be registered in their local, and you cannot buy a new SIM card unless you are a resident or unless you are a national or something. I have to find my way.
Yeah.
So I talked to a store owner inside the airport, and I told him, "Can I borrow your number because I need to call Nepal?" It was already 11 o'clock in the evening, and my my ride is waiting for me in the next airport, and he was very angry because he was all the flights had arrived and I have not yet arrived because I missed my flight. So
Yeah.
in other words, you have to be equipped also that it is not their problem talking to us, but it is our problem talking to them. So I mean, before you travel, you should at least know how to communicate with them. So in other
That's true.
words, um, uh, planning to visit a country is knowing a little of their language, at least hi and hello. The good thing about technology now is that we are very updated. We have applications on translating, say, English to Chinese. And I remember I went to China in Shenzhen, visited window of the world, and I have to eat out in a restaurant, and everything is written in menu book is written in Chinese. So I
Yeah,
have to
that's true.
depend on the pictures, but I don't know how it is tastes. I cannot even ask them how is this cooked. Is
Yeah.
this fried or is soup or something? Now, the word soup, for example, soup. So, no context,
Mhm.
they hear the word soup. Like,
Yeah.
I went to Chompon, this is in southern part of Thailand, and the food again is written in Thai. I cannot read it. There's an English translation, if a different spelling. Again, I told you there is no, they are not very particular about spelling. So I have to depend on the picture again. But I don't know how food is cooked. So every time I ask the waiter about the food that I'd like to order, he will go to the store manager and ask what I'm saying and then get back to me. So another thing or learning that you can experience is you have to learn to be patient, listen to
Yeah.
them,
Exactly.
read their
Exactly.
needs. Yeah,
Yeah.
read their lead and maybe body language can help you and pictures like pointing the menu instead of saying it. So and it's still a language because when we say language or it's not just the spoken language, it's not just the written language. There are certain things as non verbal.
Non-verbal. Yeah. Yeah.
We have
That's
to
true,
make
coach. Yeah.
so
Well,
gestures are very powerful. They will contribute to the communication process, and for you to be able to be understood, is you need some body language or nonverbal communication.
that's true. We have here some comments coming from our co-hosts. From Coach Mamshi, she said, all good jobs need good English communication skills.
Yes,
Business requires requires you to be able to talk to clients in English. It's true, no?
Yeah.
And another, and she mentioned English is the most widely spoken language all over the world. Thus, it makes travel easier for us. In fact, when I was young, when I was a lot younger, um, I learned that there were five universal languages,
Yeah.
no? But later on, as I was making further researches, I discovered that there are now around eight and even more languages considered universal. And yet, out of the number of languages, universal languages, the most spoken one is English.
Yes.
So
Correct.
if the way I look at it, we Filipinos do not really have that much of difficulty when it comes to speaking English because even the people in provinces, they are able to speak English even if they are just but
Yes.
words and cut words, no?
Yeah.
But I think we are the most able and capable people to speak English. Just another one here Coach Harvey mentioned. Very true. Speaking English is very essential on a daily basis, especially if you are in different country. Now, as you travel, well, I traveled only once in my whole life, Coach Yanni.
Yeah.
That was when we met our mother who was coming from Japan. We met her in Hong Kong. So we stayed there only for 2 days just to fetch her from Hong Kong. But be that as it may, we had we had difficulty communicating with the Chinese, the Hong Kong Chinese.
Yes.
Why? Because they spoke only Chinese. To
Mhm.
think that they were already under Britain at the time, I guess they were still learning how to speak English well, no?
Correct.
But um, even if we would speak in English with them, they could not respond back
Correct. Maybe
properly because
they can
of their
understand
lack
you.
of their knowledge of English.
That's
So
correct.
the
They
way
can understand you, but they cannot answer you back.
Yes.
The
So the
problem.
way I look at it, it's got to be two-way. It's got to be two-way.
Yeah.
It's true that we have to learn a bit of their language so that they can feel comfortable with us because we are considered foreigners, no?
Mm.
In other countries, just as foreigners when they come here, they're considered naturally aliens to us,
Yeah.
no? But the thing is, still considering that English, as what Coach Mamshi mentioned earlier, it's very necessary. It is important because even in business world, all over international, the language that is spoken is precisely English. No?
Yeah.
And yeah, and now one of the things, as far as I can recall, one of the things that I remember is that when I was on the plane and there was this lady sitting beside me, and I thought she was an English speaking person. And I said, "Hi, how are you?" Oh, to my surprise, she spoke a different language. So I kept quiet. It's very important that everybody, as far as I am concerned, as far as I can see, everybody should be able to speak English, one
Yeah.
way or another. And here, that is why Coach Momchi said, that is why many foreigners love to visit the Philippines because Filipinos can converse in English. Very true, Coach. No, very true indeed.
Yeah.
Now,
That's one of the advantages.
yes,
Aside from, of
I
course,
want.
Philippines is beautiful.
Yeah, in your experiences, Coach Yanni, what advantages? What are the advantages of being able to speak English from your experiences?
Uh, this is it. The Filipinos, we were always told that we were Americanized. In other words, our English is American, which the British will not accept because they say when we say English, that's British.
Exactly.
The good thing about Filipinos, when we speak English with a foreigner, we speak the way they do, also in terms of intonation, pronunciation, for you to be understood. So this means that Filipinos, as one people in the world, are the most flexible because I noticed that when I am in Japan, I speaking English, but I speak the way they do. When I am
Mm-hmm.
in Malaysia, I speak the way the Malaysians speak the English language because they were more British than Americans. When
Yeah.
I am in India and Nepal and everywhere in the world, I certainly make adjustments for us to be understood. Otherwise, if you don't, then probably there will be miscommunication. Like for example, in Malaysia, like Chet- Chetia, Chetia Jaya is a place, it's a train station. And when they speak, it's Satya Jaya. So that means that if I say Satya Jaya, sabi niya, where is that? It's Satya. So therefore, it's not just the writing I told you, and it is not just speaking the way you do. You have to make certain adjustments to them. So for you to be understood, speak like them. Or even if you say both in the same English, it may be pronounced different. Like and then we have to be careful about common English. Like, for example, I was doing a teacher training in Nepal, and every time that I see and so on and so forth and etc., towards the second day of the training, it's a 2-day teacher training. Somebody raise up and then say, "Excuse me, sir, what is etc." You see, so something like that. We have to be culturally oriented also. That my God,
Yes.
I'm sorry because that's Spanish for means and others or something like.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we have to
Yeah.
be very sensitive in the language. We have to be careful about the use, whether it is universally known and whether it is acceptable according to their standards. Because, like saying bad word in other places are just acceptable, but there are countries which are very sensitive about the use of language. Even if the body language may mean something a lot, it is still a language to them, which is non-verbal. So this
Mhm.
means that a lot has to be considered, and it's not their problem. If you travel to other countries, it's not their problem not talking to you or not knowing the language because it's your problem. So this means that
It's
when you
true.
travel, you have to plan for it, at least know some
Right.
phrases, and even
Right.
just keywords like if you are buying something, like an example, do you have something like this? They will not understand if they are not English speakers. So what do you have to do? Probably you have a picture, show them, and then have have like this, so they will understand you. But if you say, "Do you have something like this or similar to this or something?" Do not. In I found out that when you do talk to people who are non-English speakers, it is not how well you know about English. That's why I called it survival English or communicative English or English for specific purposes. Now we call it sometimes what I did when I was in Nepal. I did language on foot. I befriended Nepali who worked because I was assigned in the Ministry of Education as consultant for the millennial goals of the United Nations implementation. Um, it was replaced by the school sector reform. What I did is I befriended people who work also in the ministry, and during weekends like Saturday and Sunday, we do not work. So I travel with them like I call it language on foot, just walking and then talking to them. And then I made a chat group and we were chatting in Nepali, and then if we do not understand each other, we translate it in English or something like that. So gestures are a responsibility on us. It is, I think, our obligation to know their language too, not them knowing our language. And at least knowing the English language is not mandatory to them. Like what you are saying when you went to Hong Kong, because the Chinese have, before the one China policy, that everybody has to speak in Chinese, and anything foreign to them is an insult to their culture or something.
Yeah.
That when we have a Philippine Refugee Processing Center, it was during the time of Marcos. It was a project by Madame Imelda that English training program for Vietnamese and Cambodian be done in the Philippines.
Right.
because we were good speakers for the English language. We are
Mhm.
very flexible. We can make certain adjustments. So
Yes,
it
and we have the facility. No? We have the facility of
of the
being
language.
able to speak a language immediately, adopt a language immediately. Once we go to certain place, we listen to them even in our own country, the different dialects and different languages. Just like when I went to Iloilo, although this is not English, but I was assigned to Iloilo, and there, just in 3 months time, I started speaking Hiligaynon.
Mm,
See? So, in other words, we really have that facility of learning and being able to speak a language, a dialect, wherever we are placed in.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah?
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's not their obligation, it's our obligation. So on our side, we also have to make certain adjustments. We have to know also their language and how they do things, and how they speak, because we may speak differently, like in the pronunciation of the names. Like Tribuyan, Tribuyan International Airport, Tribuvan International Airport. So they speak it, they say Tribuyan for the Chinese or something like that. So this means you have to. It's not just the talking, also the listening on how words are being pronounced, and therefore that make you exist and survive in a place of your travel.
And there are countries still who are so nationalistic that they will not want to learn a language different from theirs.
Yeah, I
You know?
in this example, I would like I'm a little bit biased because I am into the maritime industry for about 20 years now. And ships, for example, are made up of different crews of different nationalities. Okay. Now, sometimes the problem about working together with different nationalities is the language difficulty. So if they do not understand each other, they are not very productive. Things are not in order. Works are not done in the right way or something. So there was actually a measure to put people, like if it is a Russian ship, then everybody are Russians on ship. If it is Chinese, then everybody are Chinese on ship. But the good thing is they will also need Filipinos on the ship, because of our creativity, of our
Right. It's true.
ingenuity, and the manner by which we work in terms of attitude. Also, we have very
Yes.
good attitude towards work. Our relationships with coworkers are good; they are in place. Communication skills are in place too, and that we have uh, very flexible, way of life, and therefore they still prefer Filipinos to be on it. So if there are nationalities who are put together, we all still need Filipinos to be on board.
Yeah.
So that's it. And it also happens for the corporate world. If you work for, like in China, if you go there and you work there, of course you have to learn a little Chinese, at least the speaking, because writing is very difficult. If you are in Japan, you have to, before you go there, you have to study Japanese language. And then actually I went there, and we will survive in Japan. So things like that.
Right. Right, coach. However, despite despite what you are saying, what you are sharing, that we do really have to respect also their languages in whatever place we go to. We have to respect their languages, learn a bit of their language, but is English yet or still important to learn?
Yeah, yes, it is. Because as you said, it is one standard language that is, acceptable internationally. People are, but it is important, but it is not mandatory, because it's very unfair for those countries who they can exist and live without English. Like for example, books now are written in different languages. Even in the written language, they can translate it. What is important in a particular community of a particular country, they understand each other. of whatever the language is. Now, if you have to make communication outside of their country, and then of course a lot of, for example, books, references, newspapers are written in the English language, so it is a must for them. And then for um, other people who would like to reach other people just because you speak different languages, there should be a universal and a common language for you to be able to understand each other, and English is one of them. Now, if
Mhm.
it's not possible because they do not speak English, that's why I always experience, even in the United States, I have traveled, I think, 8 states in the US, and there are still places where people do not speak the English language. And
Right.
sometimes I will be meeting people who say, anybody who speak English here, or if I am in the airplane and I am sitting beside people who travel in group, and they will say, anybody speak English? Of course, I am going to raise my hand because
Of
I do.
course.
So
Yes.
something like that. So there are cases when we need the English language. Uh, because it is important, but it is not mandatory actually, because
Yes. Yes.
people can
That's
exist
true.
with their language. And what is good in the world today is that everybody is reaching for everybody just because of a medium that we use, like English is one of them, but it is not everything. Okay,
That's
so
right.
therefore, I do not want to be, just because we're talking about English here, then it is as equally important with other languages, and it becomes mandatory is not correct. Because it would depend on the purpose of the English language. It depends on where you are. It depends on who you are dealing with, and it depends on your comfort, and because the best way to learn a language is to speak the language, because I said, for example, in Thailand, they are not very particular in spelling, like to Barnabumi International Airport. It's written in different ways. My God, if you read books or anything, then Barnabumi Airport International Airport is spelled in different manner. But when you say it the right way, people understand.
Right. Right. We have here comments, two comments coming from Chikoichi Lex. I don't know if I pronounce the name well. The
Chikoy
first comment, again, how is that? Chikoi
Chikoy Chilek. Chikoy
G
Chilek.
Chile. Okay. Yes. He said, yes, po, that's correct, Coach Georgie. Humans have the natural ability to learn languages. Noam Chomsky posits the idea of universal grammar referring to the ability to learn language. And he also said, learning and speaking English is equally important as learning any other skill. We
That's correct.
even have uh, to,
TOEFL.
tof, what's this?
TOEFL. That's
TOEFL?
teaching of English as a
Uh,
foreign language.
TOEFL. I, I can't read so much. This
I think
I
EL. That's EL.
IELFT,
International English Language.
ELFT, and other exams as prerequisites in working in other countries. Yes po. Universal language was found evident among feral children. Thank you so much for sharing these things with us,
Yes, thank you, sir.
Chikoy Gile.
I don't know if you are.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about the
Say
gender.
something about it. Can I say something about it? Because when I taught English as a second language and cultural orientation for Vietnamese, Laotian, and Cambodian, I was also doing volunteer work as teacher for TOEFL, because some countries, if you would like to work, for example, if you're coming from the Philippines and you're going to UK, you have to take TOEFL or IELTS, International English Language,
TOEFL.
something like that. So
Okay.
they have a standard examination for that, and you have to get a particular score. I think 8 for you to be able in a 10, for you to be able to be accepted on a work, even if it's not for teaching. You have to be certified as passing the examination. But this standard are set by countries where you are going, like
Yeah.
UK and the US are requiring for that. But what we are saying is traveling. No, if you travel on purpose, like business and uh, leisure, that's my next episode. Aside from my coming episode in Travel for More, I'll be talking about um, the travel on purpose, which is about business and pleasure. Now, language is important to you because you will be dealing with people, talking to people, like from the hotel, from the airport to the hotel, hotel to the
That's
airport,
true.
and anywhere. So this means that we still need to learn the English language. If it
That's
is
right.
for requirement that you have to pass the examination, you have to learn the structured English language.
Yeah. Well,
That's in Vientiane, I think.
yeah, yeah.
It is in
Coach
Nepal.
Yanni, yes. Thank you
Yeah,
so
that's
much.
nice.
Coach Yanni, we're getting to be so excited
Yeah,
and really immersed into this discussion.
yeah,
Unfortunately,
I love
we
it.
have very limited time,
Yeah,
and maybe some other time I can invite you again for another episode with
yeah,
regard
that would be my
to
honor.
this
That would be
language,
my
no?
honor. Thank you so much.
Okay. So, thank you so much, Coach Yanni, for being with us
Yeah,
and sharing your experiences, the challenges, the difficulties, and your sentiments regarding the English language. Once again, thank you so much, Coach Yanni, and I hope that, as I've said, we can have another session to
yeah, my
to
an
speak
honor.
regarding English language.
Yeah.
Again, thank you, Coach Yanni.
Thank you very much to our televiewers and the followers of Let's Just Speak English. Please continue watching the show. It's very
Yes,
enriching, a lot of learnings that we can have. And of course, travel pa more every
yes,
Tuesday, 4 p.m.
very good. That's right. Thank you once again, Coach Yanni. Thank you so much. So,
Thank you.
um, friends, you have heard Coach Yanni's experiences, his sharings, his experiences, his difficulties the difficulties that he encountered, the challenges that he encountered. So, at this point, let us kind of summarize it. Advantages of speaking English when you travel, ease of making bookings. No, one is quickly and easily able to make reservations and bookings when one is able to speak English. Any place one goes to, the most likely basis of communication is English. With this language, one is able to express oneself, what one needs, as what Coach Yanni mentioned earlier, what one wants. One is able to interact with other travelers. It is international language of communication of travelers. It can often be very comforting to mix with people with whom you can share experiences and communicate using a language with which you are confident. Speaking English when you travel enables you to enjoy a greater level of independence than you otherwise might, rather than having to rely on your guides that speak your native language and being restricted to taking organized tours. Speaking English allows you significantly more freedom and the opportunity to explore more independently and creatively. English is an important and useful language to know when you travel. Even when traveling to countries where English is not the language most commonly spoken, it is often recognized as the international language and the language that is mutual to travelers and locals. So, friends, I am so happy that I was able to guest Coach Yanni here, and I hope that you and I have learned so much with regard to learning to speak English, the benefits, the advantages of being able to speak English. Thank you, Coach Mamshi. Thank you for a good show. Thank you to Coach Mamshi for your support. More power to both your shows. Thank you. My pleasure and pleasure. Thank you so much. So, friends, this time we end our discussion here on the benefits, the advantages of knowing how to speak English, learning how to speak English, and the need and importance of this in traveling. So, now let us prepare ourselves for the next show that is about to follow. That is Eagles Rebirth under Coach Neff. No, so I'd like to I'd like to thank everyone for watching and being with us this afternoon. And remember, always as we gather and we interact together, let's discover, develop, and dominate the greatness within us.